This is the video for Tuesday, March 16th. Describe any experience you have interviewing for a job. If someone asked you for interview tips, what would you tell them? All right, so there's a few things you need to know before you go and interview. These actually should be things that you've already considered because you researched some of this stuff when you were doing your resume. But you need to know the company and company history and story, the company vision, purpose, and mission statement, the company values, the company's products and services, and the company's big wins and awards in the news. Somebody who goes in and sells themselves to a company might be successful in the job hunt, but someone who goes in and sells themselves as a member of that company and what they're going to bring specifically to that company is more likely to get that job, right? If the company's looking for a certain kind of candidate, you need to do everything you can to assure them that you are that type of candidate. I'm not saying that you should make yourself that type of candidate if you're not, but hopefully you are able to accentuate the parts of your personality and your skills and abilities that show them that you know exactly what they're looking for, and that you are that person. It also helps to be able to it also helps to be able to show them that you took the time and effort to do the work, even if they're not looking for someone who matches exactly, which I don't know why they wouldn't be, but even if they weren't, if you took the time to do the work, you can show them that you're able to do that research. Also, if you are looking at the company's big wins and awards in news recently, and you're able to talk to them about that, it is possible that it'll help you with the small talk that happens sometime during the interview, right? A lot of interviews happen based on small talk and personality, and you can get hired because your personality matches with theirs. And one way to do that is by being able and willing to talk about whatever's happening with that company at that time. A lot of hiring managers are just so excited to talk about things, and it gives you a leg up in terms of the small talk. So where can you find this information? Most of these should be posted on the company's website, but in some cases you'll need to dig deeper to find that information by searching for media coverage on the company or asking someone who currently works there, if that's possible. Subtly incorporate a couple of these details into your conversation during the interview when appropriate to show that you care enough about the company and the job to do thorough research. So you're not going to sit there and say, hey, guess what? I know about the company and the history. It was started in 1934 when this person did this thing. It's much less about that and much more about using those buzzwords. Yesterday in class, I talked about using buzzwords in education to get hired. And they have buzzwords that are going to be on their company's website, on their company's page, where they talk about things that are important to them, their values, their mission, things like that. And if you can use words that are that are the same, that let them know that you're speaking their language, that'll be helpful for you. Okay. All right. What to expect? You should expect to relate your skills and experience to winning in the role. I want to hire somebody who's going to win at this job. If the job description and requirements are posted online, read them carefully, then list specific ways your skills and experiences meet or exceed those expectations. Especially in the for-profit world, using language like winning is great. Now, when I get hired as a teacher, I might not be talking so much about winning, but I am basically saying the same thing where I'm talking about how my students are going to learn, how I'm going to make sure that every student has an opportunity, how I'm going to teach every student in the ways that they learn best. I'm going to talk about all those things, and that would be winning in this role. So whether or not you are using the word winning, there is still something that is important for that role. And then you should expect to answer questions. If you don't know the answers to these questions, then you haven't done your research on the role. So why do you want to work for us? If they ask you, why do you want to work for us? And you say, well, I don't know. Seems nice. I guess it's close to my house. And, well, I heard that it's a good place to work. No, that's not going to work. You should have an almost prepared answer. You don't want to sound like you're reciting a memorized answer, but you want to be very prepared. You want to practice in the mirror. Why do you want to work for us? I want to work here because I've heard such great things about this company, and your vision and mission of fill in the blank aligns with the things that I'm passionate about, period. Like something like that. What was it like to work for your previous employers? You should have answers to all the things in your past history. Specifically, why did you leave your job, or why do you want to leave your job? I still work at my job, but I feel like I'm maxed out there. I only work for the executive director, and I want a job opportunity with more opportunities for growth, something like that. What do you know about our company and this role? This is your opportunity to answer those questions on the previous slide. If they ask you that, you can say, well, I've done quite a bit of research, and I know that the company does this. I know that the company values these things, and I know that this is the direction the company's headed. I know about this thing that happened that I read about in the news recently. I thought this and that of it. I was really excited to work for a company that would do something like that, because I think that this is the direction that the world should be headed, whatever you say. Why did you leave your previous job? That sort of goes with the second question here. What was it like to work for your previous employers? Also, why would you want to leave your current job if that's part of it? And the answer may be this was the high school job that I worked at, and then I moved for college and I couldn't keep my job. Like that could be a very simple sort of thing. Or as you move on into your career, the jobs could become more complicated. And that might especially be difficult if you've ever been released from a job, whether you were fired or whatever. You always have to have a way to explain that while it sounds like it's not necessarily your fault. I was laid off because the company was bought out and they laid off 30% of the workers, and I had just taken a new role. I had just taken a new promotion, and so in my new promotion, I was the least experienced of any of the department managers, and so I was the one who was let go. If I had stayed in my previous role, I would have been able to keep my job, but I was ambitious, and I took that promotion, and then that's just what happened, right? If you have an explanation for why it happened, that's always easier. What are your biggest strengths and weaknesses? Now, it's always great to talk about your biggest strengths, and especially how those relate to the job. If I'm applying for a job as a teacher, I'm not going to say that my greatest strength is physical combat, because that's not a strength that teachers need. But if I was applying for a police job, then I could talk about physical combat, right? I have a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. I could say that, and that would be good for one job and not the other. So when you talk about your strengths, there are a few universals like integrity, trustworthiness, public speaking, writing, communication. Like these are all things that pretty much no matter what job you're going to get, those are helpful to have. But you do want to try to have some strengths that relate to your job perfectly. As far as weaknesses go, weaknesses are different. People have different feelings about talking about your weaknesses. So some people will say that they think that you should never admit to a weakness. Your weaknesses should be that you care too much and you're too much of a perfectionist, and you're just too amazing at your job that sometimes you're just too much of a perfectionist. Like that's one approach. And I think that for some people who are interviewing you, they want to hear you say that you are a perfectionist and you're too much of a perfectionist and something like that, and they want you to play the game. Other people, when they hear that you're too much of a perfectionist and you're really just bragging about something that and pretending like it's a weakness, they roll their eyes and they don't want to hear about that. So I'm going to leave that up to you, whether you talk about your weaknesses as real things or as fake things. But there should always be some things that you never say. You don't want to say, my biggest weakness is that sometimes I steal things. Or my biggest weakness is that I just don't really care unless I'm being rewarded for things. Or sometimes I show up late to work a lot. Sometimes I call in sick when I'm not sick. These are all sorts of things that you never want to say Those are your weaknesses. If you want to talk about a weakness, you should also talk about something that you can do to improve and something you have been doing to improve. I'm not a natural public speaker, but I've been doing my best to improve in that area, and I've been seeing real progress. I just know that I have a long ways to go. This is how I've been doing that. I've been working at my job now, and I've been intentionally taking on roles as team leader so that I can practice speaking in front of groups. I would like to continue to learn to speak in front of groups in this role and continue to increase the size of the group. That's, that will be the kind of answer where you say, this is a weakness, but this is what I'm doing to improve it, and this is how I'm getting better at it. Another example, maybe you say, this job is something that is beyond where I've been in my past. I know that there is a ton of things about this job that I don't know, but I don't yet know what those things are. And so I'm going to come in and I'm going to drink from a fire hose. I'm going to try the very best I can. But I know that I have a lot to learn. That might be the kind of answer you would give at the beginning when you're looking for a job at an entry-level position where a hiring manager might be interviewing 3 people, and the other 2 come in and say, yeah, I know this, I know everything about everything. And it might feel to that hiring manager like they think they have nothing left to learn. And you come in and you say, I know that I have a lot to learn and I just don't know what those things are. And so my weakness, I think, is that I don't yet have the experience in the field, but I think that my strength is that I am eager to learn, and I don't have the arrogance to believe that I know everything. I think if you said something like that, that would be a good answer for weaknesses. And then last thing, why should we hire you? If they ask you why they should hire you, you need to be prepared to give an answer that explains to them why you would be the right choice for the job and why you would be the right choice for the job from their perspective. You should hire me because I would really enjoy working here and I need the money is not a reason for them to hire you. You should hire me because I believe in what this organization is doing and I think that I can help in the following ways. That is a good answer for why we should hire you. Okay. So next thing is how to dress. So 2/3 of hiring managers say wardrobe can be a decision maker in hiring. Now, I notice that when sometimes I'll be at a fast food place and there's a high school student there who's interviewing, and that high school student is wearing whatever he or she was wearing to school that day. And in that case, it's probably not a big deal. You're not going to fail to get a job if you show up to McDonald's and you're not wearing a suit, right? Like you can wear whatever to a job like that. But I'm talking about in a real professional job setting, you need to wear, if you're a man, you need to wear a suit, period. End of story. When I interviewed for this job as a teacher, I wore a suit and I did my interview on Zoom. And I wore the whole thing. I wore the pants, the shoes, everything, because I didn't know what was going to happen, and it's no trouble to just put on a suit. For female students, you want to dress professionally, and there's a lot of material on how to do that I'm not going to offer an opinion on because I am not certainly the expert in that area. 55% of managers say the way you dress and act can sell their first impression the second you walk through the door. All right, so how to dress. Don't look wrinkled or outdated. It might be worth spending some money on new clothes to get the job. Bargain shop if you need to. Brand names aren't as important as long as you look professional. Also, you do want to make sure that your clothes fit. All right, yeah. You do want to make sure that your clothes fit. So if your clothes are bought from a thrift store, bought, hand me down from an older sibling, something like that, and they just don't quite fit right, it's not going to look great. You don't want baggy pants, you don't want baggy shirts, and you don't want things to be too tight. You don't want sleeves that go halfway down your arm. You want things that that fit and that feel like they were made for you. And you don't need to go out and spend a ton of money to do that. Some people, and whether this is ethical or not, you can decide for yourself. Some people will go somewhere and they will buy a brand new suit from a place with a good return policy like Kohl's, and they will go to the interview. And after the interview, they will return the suit. I don't have any problem with that. Like I'm sure it's not great for Kohl's, but for you, if you can't afford the suit, then you don't want then you're not going to be able to get if you don't have the job, you can't afford the suit. And you don't want to say, well, I'll just buy this suit because I can go get the job because it's an investment. Yeah, maybe if it works out. And if it doesn't work out, then you have a problem. Dress in accordance with the company's dress code. If you can't access those details or if all employees wear uniforms, classic business attire is always a safe bet for your interview. It's better to be overdressed than underdressed. That's a good rule of thumb. If you're not sure how much, always overdress. The chances that you overdress and chances are when you overdress, they'll be impressed by it and not be turned off by it. Now, you never know, maybe they will, but you always want to overdress when possible. And then stay away from super trendy, loud outfits unless you're interviewing for a position in fashion. You don't want to make too much of a statement there. And then how to act. Your facial expressions and body language speak for you before you even open your mouth. So be conscious of the nonverbal messages you could be sending. Everybody think about the first time you walked into this classroom and you looked at me. You sized me up in some way. Who is this guy? What's he about? And think about that and realize that as soon as you enter into the room, your hiring manager is doing the same thing. Make and keep good eye contact, but don't stare into your interviewer's soul. So eye contact is important. You certainly do not want to be looking down. You don't want to be looking away. You want to have a natural level of eye contact. Smile, but keep it natural, not stiff or frozen. You don't want to look like the Joker. You want to look like you're happy and excited to be there. Happiness can wear off on that person, and an interviewer can think, you know what? They can have a positive impact of you because of your mood and the fact that you were smiling. It can make them feel the same way and smile in that same way. Maintaining good posture. Experts suggest imagining there's a string connecting the top of your head to the ceiling, so you're sitting neutrally instead of slouching or leaning aggressively. I have difficulty with my posture, I'll be honest. But for an interview, the interview's not going to last more than 5 or 10 minutes. I can have good posture for 5 or 10 minutes. I'm thinking about that. I'm focused on that. And then once I get into that position, then I can start thinking about my answers. Don't cross your arms and legs. It can make you seem closed off. Be enthusiastic. Express gratitude at the beginning of and the end of the interview. So those are the 6 things that you should keep in mind. I would also say it might be important to have a firm handshake. It might be difficult. You might be nervous. You might have clammy hands. Hopefully you don't. Hopefully your hands are dry when you shake their hands. And look into their eyes, firm handshake, good posture, the whole thing. And then once you've passed this barrier and you've given them something positive to think about, you can then answer their questions and be more comfortable in doing so. There's a theory that we talk about in psychology and sociology called the halo effect. And the halo effect is that if the first thing or the strongest thing you notice about somebody is positive or negative, that feeling of positive or negative you will associate that with all of their answers. So there was a study that was done where a person read from a dating profile. They read it the same exact script in a happy tone, and then they read it again in a negative tone, and they showed that reading to a group of girls, and the group of girls who had the negative tone thought he was pessimistic and hated all of his answers, and the group of girls he had a positive tone and a positive action and demeanor and smiled and things, they all thought that he was attractive and that his answers were great. And so the answers were the same, and for him it swung on whether or not he had a good attitude and was smiling and was a positive person. And so when you have an interview, it's the same way. If you're properly dressed and you have good eye contact, smile, maintain good posture, you have good body language, you're enthusiastic, good handshake, smiling, and you express your gratitude, all of those things are going to frame your answers in a certain way. Your answers can be perfect, but if you don't have those other good things, it's going to be much more difficult to get that job. And if you have all those other things and you make a mistake on an answer, you say something that's not great, your interviewer psychologically is more likely to give you the benefit of the doubt. Think, oh yeah, they probably meant this, or this is what they were thinking. And so you can sort of make up for some of the shortcomings in that way. Last thing you might want to do is you might want to write a thank you note at the end of the interview. Don't have it pre-written and ready to give to them, but that day you should do the best you can to send them a thank you note. If this is a quick thing, if they're like, yes, you'll hear from us tomorrow, send them an email. If it's, it's going to be a long process, we'll let you know within the next week or so, you should handwrite a thank you note if your handwriting is reasonable and send it to them. That is going to let them know that you really appreciate the opportunity, and it's going to make them want to help you. You should do everything you can to make them want to help you, because if they want to help you, they will. And that's called the Benjamin Franklin effect. If you ask somebody for help or advice, or even thank them personally, if you make them want to help you, they will like you more. And so that's a good technique there as well.